Top of the morning, Dan, and in for Amy this morning is blonde bombshell John Cash, Chicago Tribune columnist. U.S. adding 661,000 jobs in September, as you heard at the top of the hour. The unemployment rate falling below 8% to 7.9%, but below street estimates, in addition to the real complicating factor this morning, which, of course, is the instability in D.C. per the health condition of President Trump and his wife, First Lady Melania Trump, after they both tested positive for COVID-19. This reported overnight in tweets by the president, as well as a statement from his doctor. Both are understood to be asymptomatic at this juncture, and of course their condition will be closely monitored. There's been no transfer of power temporarily to the vice president. Let me just get, updating people. But, of course, it does create concern because it is a serious infection, particularly for a 74-year-old man. But by the same token, we also know that the survival rate is, in the upper 90 percentile. So, of course, we hope that both he and the First Lady, as well as Hope Hicks, who likely was the transmitter, senior aide who tested positive, and then ultimately President Trump and Melania tested positive. We hope they all get better soon per the quarantine. We've talked about the political implications. Now let's talk about some of the economic implications against the backdrop of the September jobs number with our friend Scott the Cow Guy Shellady, Fox Business contributor. Scott, thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Good morning. Good morning.
So,
Hey, Scott.
I'm sorry.
Hey, John, I kept the seat warm from John all night, so hopefully it's okay for him.
Yes, exactly. Like a mother hen. You did. Start with the impact of the president and the First Lady testing positive, particularly the president, because this is one of those shocks to the system that is unanticipated by the market, and so roils it apparently this morning.
Yeah, I mean, the Dow is down. The Dow futures are pointing for about a 500 point loss. It could be more than that. Who knows? But it's because of the uncertainty. And you're right. They so far have been basically asymptomatic. Apparently, he had some symptoms that could have been explained by all the campaigning and talking he was doing with his raspy voice. But having said that, I think, the first real big piece of news I got this morning is with this, you already mentioned this transfer of power talk that's already done the, chattering circles, is that Pence has a better chance over Biden than Trump does. So I don't know where to go with it after that, but it's going to be something that's going to dominate the news today. The economic indicators that we got this morning will take a back seat, and this will be the focus, hyper-focus for the next 10 days for sure.
Well, what about those economic indicators? The jobs number, unemployment rate falling, but the jobs number not as robust as anticipated.
Yeah, it's following the pattern that it's been on. I don't think anybody should be surprised. I mean, yesterday's pattern of, less people filing for unemployment, but not as much, not as drastic as we'd like. Today, we got more people put in jobs, but not as good as we'd like. So, yeah, the economy is getting better. We've got back just over half of the jobs we lost when we started this whole mess. But you know what? Again, this is for every month of damage we had, it's going to take 3 or 4 months to undo that 1 month's worth of damage, I think. So that's the problem, is that we all are wishing and hoping this problem away, and we want to get back to normal as soon as possible. But this was not a gash. This was a stab wound, and we're still trying to find out how deep that stab wound was.
And so the other economic indicators you're looking at, or does this come down to this is, just so much talking past the issue or attempting to talk past the issue? The issue is wide swaths of the economy are not open. The issue is there is a significant percentage of the population that is feared, that is afraid and not participating in economic activity, leisure activities and the like. And until that changes, we're going to do the best we can operating at half or three-quarter speed.
Exactly right. And the market will always get ahead of it because the market's, a voting mechanism for what's going to happen 6, 12, and 18 months down the road. So that'll be a little bit different. But in all actuality, the reality is going to tell you this, is that from the last day that the last state is open 100%, it's still going to be an 18-month, maybe 24-month ordeal as people try to get more comfortable with themselves. Now, yeah, we're going to have a vaccine, and we have to see the trajectory of the economy, which is going in the right way, but the trajectory is not as steep as it was. We've got a Fed there that's very accommodative. So all of those things are pointing for a recovery. But we have a bruised and battered American psyche that those economists and analysts don't take into consideration, that even though we might even have a vaccine, that could be a 2-year deal, and you could put $1 million of gold bars at the end of some of these people's driveways, and they still won't come out. So it's not going to happen overnight, and I still say it's slower, lower, longer. I know it sounds a little bit Debbie Downerish, but it's probably more true than everybody thinking that we're going to get back to normal as soon as the vaccine comes out.
And so the test that you offered on the show yesterday, we'll know that it's time to come out and grab those $1 million worth of gold bars at the end of our driveway. When what happens? When we see what? Or anybody, and whoever sees this first, what Shellady's about to say, alert everybody else that it's safe.
After you take a big position in the market for the recovery. I would say... Yeah, when you see that 70-year-old couple out celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary in a hot and crowded Chinese restaurant, that COVID is over. So that's going to be the key.
How hot does the restaurant have to be?
It's got to be hot enough that you don't want to order a hot meal. How's that?
Okay, very good. But I mean, your point is this is against the backdrop in Chicago of inching up of capacity allowances at restaurants and other public facilities this weekend. But I mean, but that's not enough. Inching up, you're not getting a corresponding economic benefit.
It just drives me crazy because that these people in the restaurant industry, say you have a restaurant in one of those big buildings like Shake Shack around the corner from in the city in the Sears Tower. They need that place. They need the Sears Tower to be 95% capacity for them to make money. I mean, this idea that you can do anything better. I don't understand the geniuses in the room that think that they're going to let these people, and that by letting them, the Stockholm Syndrome, you come out and kiss your captor. You kiss J.B. Pritzker because he allows you to sink slower or go out of business slower. It's absolutely ridiculous. And so the idea that even the federal government, that they can throw money at this problem is, to me, ridiculous, because it's not a money problem. It is because of what we've done to the economy, but it's really a psychological issue. You have to work on the psyche of the country, and that's going to be more important.
Scott, speaking of which, now that the president and the first lady are down with COVID, how does that affect all the psychology?
Well, a couple things have already happened. I've had to block a bunch of people from social media. It's a soulless place that it is this morning because of all the people that are actually celebrating the position that the Trumps find themselves into, which I find absolutely disgusting.
Right.
And that will make those that are even maybe friends or friendly to the president, they're going to be afraid more because we're going to get all this stuff that's going to be muddying those waters of being afraid, and that's going to happen, and that's going to slow things even further, right? So this will slow the economy down, I think, more because, oh my gosh, the president's got it, the world's going to end. By the way, Boris Johnson had it. He had a bad case of it too, by the way, but he's still standing up, right? So, and all the baseball players that got it are all still standing up, right? And you rightfully said before I came on, Dan, is that in his age group, he's got a 94.7% chance of living. So, I mean, before you start celebrating his predicament, the numbers actually say that he's got a very, very good chance of continuing in his spot.
But all this 25th Amendment stuff, and again,
oh my God,
all this screaming about how's that going to affect the market? Because first thing I heard of the first thing I heard of when he was sick was, why did I call Shellady last night and get my 401k straightened out, Scott? Damn it. You should have called me at home.
Well, I have a different view than Wall Street does. Wall Street's looking at three things, and they've tried to say for the last 6 weeks that it doesn't matter who's going to be the president, because the three more important things are the efficacy of a vaccine, the trajectory of the economy, and a very accommodative Fed. They think that's much more important for, say, 2021, and the market's that way, right? So if Biden was to get in, they're going to lean on those three things. I don't think so. I think, and I'm only 54 years old, but I was able to vote the last time Biden had to, bow out because he plagiarized. But I think that this is a much bigger election than that. It's capitalism versus some degree of socialism. And, for 16 years I lived in Europe or London. They don't consider themselves Europe. But, that's a mildly socialist country. So I have an idea about what what that's like, and it's not anywhere that America wants to go. So I think it's much bigger than that. But right now, Wall Street's trying to poo-poo down whomever may be the president. They're leaning on those three tenets. They think next year is going to be good no matter who's in office.
Tell me what.
I guess it's. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to pick up on something with respect to the president and COVID. It creates some uncertainty now, but hopefully, if he is asymptomatic and he's able to, quarantine without incident, come back and be just as he was prior to this announcement. That may, because he's so high profile, it didn't work with Boris Johnson, but that's in part because then they imposed these draconian lockdown measures. May encourage a lot more people to be optimistic, may disabuse people of their fear. President Trump is morbidly obese, he's this, he's that. Well, if a 75-year-old guy who's overweight can get the infection, be asymptomatic, or ideally, hopefully, and then come out the other side relatively quickly and everything's fine, maybe that will disabuse some people of these irrational fears they're holding on to, and maybe a bit of a stimulus, if you will.
Yeah, litmus test for stimulus. Yeah, I could see that happening too. But what it really kind of screws up in the short term is the campaigning, and he wants to be out in front of people.
Right,
so
of course.
Can you imagine in the middle of a campaign having a lockdown in your basement and not come out any? Oh wait. Sorry, that's already been
I wanted to get. I know we touched upon this yesterday, but the founder of BET, first black billionaire in America, Robert Johnson, on this issue you were just discussing, because he comes decidedly down on your side, talking about the choice between Trump and Biden. This is Robert Johnson on CNBC.
Where I come out as a businessman, I will take the devil I know over the devil I don't know any time of the week. And that seems to be what business people are confronting today.
So you're endorsing Trump, President Trump?
I'm not endorsing anybody. What I'm saying is, if I, as a business person, what you want more than anything else, particularly coming out of something as horrible as this pandemic and its impact on not only the U.S. economy, but the global economy, the more you know about who will be pulling the levers of economic growth, economic development, taxes, stimulus, regulations. In my opinion, you're better off dealing with somebody you know where they're going to be than somebody you really have no idea what decisions they will make at such a critical time.
So you're saying that you would stick with President Trump rather than vote for someone to come in and change office because you don't know what Biden would do at this point?
I absolutely do not know what Vice President Biden will do. I haven't heard anything coherent out of what he said he will do.
So, Scott, those champagne socialist paper changers at Goldman Sachs, the John Corzines and Lloyd Blankfeins of the world, they may say it doesn't matter who the president is with respect to fiscal policy, but Bob Johnson, who actually built something, says it does matter.
Yeah, and there's two streams of thought going on there. Number one, it's just the stability, knowing what you know and dealing with what you have versus the unknown. But another thing too is that when he was running for office in 2016, he had that shrug of the shoulders. Hey, what do you got to lose to the African American community, right? What do you got to lose? Why don't you give me a shot, right? How well has it been going for you the last 70 years? Well, with the black community not knowing anything about that guy, he still garnered 8% of the vote. And so if you want to try to listen to, say, even Candace Owens, where she says he's now over 20% of the vote because of now they know what he's done for them, the 3.5% unemployment. And look what's gone, black unemployment, I think this morning was over 12% because of this COVID stuff. So they know that he can get them down to 3.5%. They know what he can do for the historically black colleges and universities. They know what he can do with these opportunity zones. That could be the biggest decider in the election and the Latinos on top of it. So I think until last night's news, he's in very good territory, if you ask me.
One thing is they don't, blacks and Hispanics don't believe in virtue. They don't hunt for virtue among politicians, clearly.
Right.
He is Scott the Cow Guy Shellady, Fox Business contributor. Scott, thanks for joining us as always. Appreciate it.
John, see you guys.
Thanks, man.
Join us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
You've made the switch, and it feels so good. You've switched to Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
This is attorney Stephen